in the shadows of America's cities and forgotten backstreets. A darkness persisted for over 4 decades, a silent, deadly predator whose presence haunted the most vulnerable members of society. These were women often ignored, dismissed, or overlooked, addicted, homeless, or entangled in lives that made them easy targets. Behind this invisible threat was a man whose name would become synonymous with horror, Samuel Little. His story is one of unthinkable brutality, manipulation, and an unrelenting compulsive urge to kill, spanning more than 40 years. His victims, primarily women living on the margins, those battling addiction, homelessness, or mental illness, disappeared into the shadows, their stories silenced or forgotten. Many were never identified, their families unaware of their fates. Others were dismissed as overdoses, suicides, or accidental deaths. Their stories buried in cold case files that would remain unresolved for years. He himself later confessed responsibility for 93 murders, the most prolific serial killer in American history. His own detailed sketches, often drawn during interviews in prison, closely resembled the faces of women who had been missing for decades. His descriptions of locations, injuries, and last words, sometimes corroborated by forensic evidence, painted a chilling picture of a man who had operated undetected for over 40 years. Born in 1940 in Georgia, Samuel Little's early life was marked by chaos and neglect. His victims were often women with histories of addiction, mental health issues, or homelessness, targets society had long abandoned, left to drift in the shadows. They were easy prey, and Little saw them as nothing more than objects to be manipulated, controlled, and ultimately destroyed. Raised in a world marred by violence and social neglect, his childhood was filled with hardship, abuse, and instability. They'd cry, beg me to let them go, Little revealed. But I was stronger. I held them tight until they stopped moving. His patience was chilling. He would wait hours or days, stalking his victims, studying their routines. I liked the feeling of control, he said, watching them, waiting for the right time to strike. That's when I felt most alive. His words are disturbingly matter-of-fact, revealing a man who saw his victims as objects, targets to be controlled, discarded, and forgotten. As a boy, he was subjected to neglect and violence, and from a young age, his behavior was erratic and aggressive. I'd hold them tight, he admitted. Feel their struggle, their last breath. Many victims were left in gruesome states, lying face down, with their eyes wide open, or in contorted positions that hid the violence inflicted on them. They didn't have anyone looking out for them, he once told an interviewer. They were just out there, and I saw them, and I took my chance. When I was strangling her, I felt alive, he said. It was like I finally found peace until I had to do it again. A mark that identified his work. I like to see them in their last moments, he explained, eyes wide open, trying to breathe. Then they go still. That silence, that's what I liked. I remember every face, he boasted, every last one of them. His sketches, deeply detailed, often haunting, became crucial in identifying victims long lost to history. Many families finally learned what happened to their loved ones after decades of silence. His confessions shattered complacency, forcing cold case investigators to revisit old investigations. I like the feel of their necks in my hands, Little admitted. That's when I felt like I was king. His words are a chilling testament to his perception of himself as an unstoppable predator. His ability to recall details, to draw portraits, and to relive his acts with such clarity makes him one of the most chilling figures in American criminal history. His own words, his sketches, and the evidence connect him to dozens of murders, but countless others could remain hidden victims forever lost in the shadows. His darkness leaves an indelible scar across the fabric of society, a haunting reminder that evil can lurk just beneath the surface, waiting, watching, and ready to strike again. It's a story of systemic failure, of innocence lost, and of a man who exploited society's neglect, taking lives one by one for decades with impunity. But justice finally caught up with him in 2018 when DN evidence and his own confessions led to his arrest. It's a story of a man who, for decades, evaded justice by exploiting society's failures, only to be finally unraveled by relentless investigators and his own chilling confessions. If this story disturbed you, and it should, please subscribe and share, because the shadows hold many secrets, and some monsters only reveal themselves when it's too late. His words are haunting, revealing a man haunted by his own darkness, a darkness that overpowered his conscience, a hunger that could never be satisfied. His manipulations were calculated. He would pretend to be friendly, sometimes even offering them a ride, a conversation, or a moment of kindness. But beneath the veneer of normalcy lurked a predator with a relentless, dark desire. I'd watch them, see which ones were alone, he explained. It's like I was possessed, he said. Once I started, I couldn't stop. I'd see the faces, and I'd have to keep going. These words reveal a man lost in his own madness, an evil that consumed him, uncontainable and relentless. I wanted to leave my mark, he said. Make sure they remembered who did this. He described acts of sadism, torturing victims, prolonging suffering, mutilating bodies, and leaving taunting clues behind. I like to see their faces, he said softly. Many of these women were dismissed as throwaways, their disappearances ignored or attributed to overdoses. Little's confession shattered these assumptions. They were just women nobody cared about, he said. That's why I took them. The terror, the pain, that's what I was after. That's what made me feel powerful. His words underscore the depth of his depravity. A man convinced of his own invincibility. A predator who believed himself beyond justice. I'd approach, talk to them, and when the moment was right, I'd take them out. His preferred method was strangulation, slow, personal, intimate, an act of domination that left victims helpless and breathless. I'm responsible for a lot of deaths, and I don't regret it. Not one bit. His unapologetic attitude highlights a man who saw himself as unstoppable, a master manipulator, and a creature of darkness. His criminal record began to grow in the 1960s: petty thefts, assaults, and run-ins with the police. But beneath the surface of these minor offenses lurked a darker darkness, an impulsive, predatory nature that would eventually erupt into a wave of terror across cities and states. I don't really know why I did it, he said. It was like I was driven by something I couldn't control. Over the years, his confessions grew more detailed, more explicit, adding layers to the terrifying mosaic of his crimes. A series of murders linked by brutality and the profile of the victims, stretched across California, Florida, Texas, and beyond. Yet, despite the mounting evidence and similarities, the killer was never caught. The cases remain cold, their perpetrators unnamed, their victims forgotten. Little's crimes were buried in the annals of unsolved mysteries until the day that his confessions would bring them all back into the light. Over the course of nearly 5 decades, Little's killing spree remained largely hidden, an elusive, shadowy figure who preyed on society's most vulnerable. By the early 1970s, law enforcement agencies across multiple states began to notice a disturbing pattern. The true scale of Samuel Little's crimes is almost impossible to grasp. What makes his story so profoundly disturbing is not just the number, but the method and mindset behind each murder. In his own words, Little described how he would approach women, often in isolated or dangerous areas, convincing them to trust him. His killings began, he claimed, in the early 1970s. His method was often slow and deliberate. He would stalk his victims for days, even weeks watching, waiting before striking. Many victims fought desperately, their last moments filled with terror. His murders were often carefully planned. He would lure women into deserted areas, alleys, abandoned buildings, or isolated parks. Once he struck, the brutality was relentless. He used his hands, belts, or makeshift ligatures to choke his victims slowly, relishing the sensation of power. In some cases, he returned to the crime scenes days or weeks later, mutilating bodies or moving them to confuse investigators. His confessions reveal a man who took twisted pleasure in chaos and destruction. Throughout his confessions, Little expressed a sense of pride. I did what I did, he said flatly. His own reflections reveal how he felt during and after the murders. He admitted to mutilating victims, leaving some bodies in abandoned or remote places, returning to scenes to add final touches, sometimes mutilating or disfiguring victims to leave a signature. His ability to remember faces and details was almost supernatural. His crimes exposed a systemic failure, the way society failed to protect its most vulnerable. The depths of his depravity are almost beyond comprehension. His murders were acts of domination, control, and sadism. As he detailed his acts, he revealed a man haunted by dark compulsions, driven by an uncontrollable urge he believed he could not resist. His confessions also uncovered moments of twisted pride. "I did what I did," he said, "and I remember every face." His case is a stark reminder that evil can operate quietly, in plain sight, hiding behind a mask of normalcy. The full scope of Samuel Little's crimes may never be entirely known. His story is a warning, a testament to human depravity, and the depths of evil that can be hidden behind a calm facade. Thank you for joining us as we explore one of America's darkest chapters.